Just before noon Eastern time today, Donald Trump said this on Twitter. The United States must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until such time as the world comes to its senses regarding nukes. That quote, that statement breaks precedent in several ways here. Number one, setting policy by Twitter. Number two, attempting to set policy at all as president-elect a month from taking office. And number three, and most important, this would mark an enormous change in the nation's nuclear policy. As happens when the future leader of the free world talks about expanding nuclear capability, this made news around the world today. Here, for example, is how the News at 10 started its broadcast on ITV tonight in Great Britain.
Confusion reigns tonight. If it was any other American president, you'd say we are looking at a nuclear arms race with incredibly serious and uncertain consequences. But this is Donald Trump we're talking about, so it might just be an idle remark. Welcome to the future.
He is making the point that this is about nuclear proliferation in the face of rogue nations and regimes that are stockpiling weapons, it would seem. And all he's saying is, look, his first priority is to keep us all safe and secure. His first doctrine is peace through strength. In a perfect world, Rachel, we wouldn't have any nuclear weapons, but it's not a perfect world. In fact, it's a very dangerous world.
So when it's proliferation, what do you...
Well, what he's saying, I think all the president-elect is saying, is that we have to be able to keep ourselves safe and secure. And when others stop building their nuclear weapons, then we'll feel more secure in that regard.
Who is he talking about?
Well, he's talking about anyone who fits the description of a regime that would do us harm or a rogue nation.
He's saying we're going to expand our nuclear capability.
He's not necessarily saying that.
He did literally say we need to expand our nuclear capability.
And he may as president. What he's saying is we need to expand our nuclear capability, really our nuclear readiness, or our capability to be ready for those who also have nuclear weapons. He's putting the world on notice that he will do what he thinks he needs to do to keep us safe and secure.
By expanding our nuclear capability.
I mean, he's not trying to change a policy through Twitter.
Your most controversial suggestion was don't take nuclear weapons. I mean, you may have been hooked into this by a press question.
Don't take what?
Nuclear weapons off the table. I have been trying to think how we could conceivably use a nuclear weapon in the Middle East or in Europe in fighting ISIS. Where can you, and why put it on the table or leave it on the table if you can't imagine where to use it?
I didn't say don't take it. I said I would be very, very slow and hesitant.
Well, why wouldn't you just say I don't want to talk about it? I don't want to talk about nuclear weapons. Presidents don't talk about use of nuclear weapons.
The question was asked. We're talking about NATO, which, by the way, I say is obsolete.
But you got hooked into something you shouldn't have talked about.
I think, well, someday maybe.
Maybe?
Of course. If somebody
where would we drop a nuclear weapon in the Middle East?
Let me explain. Somebody hits us with a nuke.
ISIS.
You wouldn't fight back with a nuke?
No, to drop a nuclear weapon into a community of people.
But you can't say. First of all, you don't want to say take everything off the table.
No, just
you're
nuclear.
A bad negotiator if you do that.
Just nuclear.
Look, nuclear should be off the table. But would there be a time when it could be used? Possibly.
Okay, the trouble is when you said that, the whole world heard. David Cameron in Britain heard it. The Japanese, where we bombed them in 45, heard it. They're hearing a guy running for president of the United States talking of maybe using nuclear weapons. Nobody wants to hear that about an American president.
Why are we making them? Why do we make them? We have
because of the old mutual assured destruction, which Reagan hated and tried to get rid of.
I was against Iraq. I'd be the last one to use the nuclear weapons.
So can you take it off the table now?
That's sort of like the end of the ball.
Can you tell the Middle East we're not using the nuclear weapon?
I would never say that. I would never take any of my cards off the table.
How about Europe? We won't use it in Europe.
I'm not going to take it off the table.
You might use it in Europe?
No, I don't think so. But
well,
I'm not
just say it. I'll never use a nuclear weapon in Europe.
I am not taking cards off the table. I'm not going to use nukes, but I'm not taking any cards off the table.
The trouble is that the sane people hear you, and the insane people are not affected by your threats. That's the trouble. The real fanatics say, good, keep it up.
I think they're more affected than you might think.
Okay, your call.